Colleen Moore as described by her grandson, Charles P. Hargrave, in our interview with him.
Funny, self-reliant, smart.
Today, Colleen Moore is best known for her fairy castle on permanent exhibit at the Museum of Science and Industry in Chicago, Illinois, as well as for her silent film career. In fact, Moore deserves to be recognized as a triumph in history as she was pivotal in shaping America's views on women.
Kathleen Morrison kept a scrapbook of all her favorite actors, but one page was blank. This page was reserved for a very special person, the woman she would grow up to be, the woman who would come to change the way that America would view its young women forever. That woman was Colleen Moore.
When she was a small child, she went to a performance of Peter Pan in Chicago. During the scene in which Peter implores the audience, all children who believe in fairies, to raise their hands. Kathleen was so moved and entranced by the performance, she stood up in the audience and started to clap, shouting, "I believe in fairies, I really do." The audience laughed at her enthusiasm, and Kathleen felt a curious feeling of power come over her when she realized that she was making them laugh. In those short moments, she had changed the way other people saw her. She liked this feeling of establishing change and wanted to continue changing people's views for the rest of her life. And to make that happen, she needed a stage to showcase her talent.
Kathleen Morrison's start to fame began with her uncle Walter Howie, a well-known writer for the Chicago Tribune who struck a deal with the film producer D.W. Griffith. Because of Kathleen's passion for silent film acting, in 1917 he was able to land her a job, and with her job came her stage name. She was christened Colleen Moore, and from then on, a star was born.
Despite working for several studios that were forced to close down and becoming unemployed frequently, Moore was still able to make a name for herself by 1919. She would later take comic training to help with her acting and became highly sought after by several film companies.
In May of 1923, Colleen signed a contract with American First National Pictures and started work on Flaming Youth, which was released in November of that year. Before Flaming Youth, she had mostly played the love interest or heroine to the main male character, but when this movie was released, she played a flapper who was a spirited and independent young woman. She felt pleased with every scene, feeling that it more truly showed off herself as a person. As she said in her biography, "Don't worry, girls, no edict of fashion arbiters will ever swathe you in long and cumbersome skirts." She added, "The American girl will see to this. She is independent, a thinker who will not follow slavishly the ordinances of those who in the past have decreed this or that for her to wear."
After it was released, Moore became the physical embodiment of the flapper look. Her iconic bob haircut was asked for in hair salons throughout the country, and her above-the-knee skirts were viewed as both shocking and comedic. Photoplay magazine rained praise on her, declaring, "She looks the part with her straight bobbed hair and her mischief-filled eyes." She was also described by a Michigan writer as the very apotheosis of the cult of unhampered youthful self-expression. Colleen was not afraid to express herself, despite how many people disapproved of her look. She was deemed a safe flapper. She had the style and was full of lively spirit, but was more likely to live wholesomely and honestly than live the fast life of a traditional flapper, irresponsible, promiscuous. For this reason, both old and young audiences could connect with her, and through her determination and dedication, connected to her beliefs and looks.
When asked about her role in Flaming Youth and how it changed how she was viewed, her reply was, "They copied my clothes. No longer did a girl have to be beautiful to be sought after. Any plain Jane could become a flapper. No wonder they grabbed me to their hearts and made me their movie idol." The flapper craze was taking over America. Young women from all different ethnicities and all different backgrounds donned the flapper look and worshipped their idols. This new craze, this new era. It was a new way of life for young women, a new way for them to express themselves. The flapper was any girl who denounced the idea of having their lives controlled. They wanted to control their own life, and through this, change.
One of the things that Colleen Moore is most recognized for is her famous dollhouse. Colleen had always loved dollhouses and owned several herself. When it was suggested to her that she might want to create her own, she began plans to build a massive dream dollhouse in 1928. When it was finished in 1935, she began a national tour with the fairy castle to raise money for children's charities. The Museum of Science and Industry reported that the dollhouse made over $650,000, which in today's money would be roughly $8.7 million. Also stated by Charles P. Hargrave.
She had her fairy castle, but that thing was built entirely modularly, so it could be packed up into like a semi-truck and tour the country. And people were charged a nickel to tour through it, and all of that went for funding charitable needs.
This is the Enchanted Castle. It is now starting on a tour of the world for the benefit of crippled children. Now, if you listen carefully, you can hear the magic nightingale singing in the Garden of Aladdin.
At the very peak of her career, she brought in a salary of $12,500 a week. This was equivalent to $180,000 in today's money.
As an actress, was like the number one gate receipt actress of her time. And rather than what you hear about pro basketball players today, where they make scads of money and then file for bankruptcy, she invested it all in the stock market.
This was not common for a woman at the time. Her husband, in fact, was the person who inspired her and introduced her to economics and money management, saying that women should be able to manage money just as well as men do. When Mr. Hargrave tried to teach his wife about how to invest money, Colleen Moore replied, "But darling, I can't even balance my own checkbook." And he said, "You ought to be ashamed to admit it." So he taught her how to handle finance and money, and with that knowledge she wrote How Women Can Make Money in the Stock Market. Her intention in writing the book was to influence women to invest and view the stock market differently, and that they could be just as successful as men. In the Smithsonian article in 2017, it is shown that she impacted not only flappers and young women then, but now in the 21st century.
I think she just felt that a woman has as much right as a man to do what she wants to do, and she did.
Unlike their mothers and grandmothers, flappers tended to go to high school and even college, and they devoured new books featuring confident, fun-loving adolescent heroines who hiked and camped and solved mysteries. Flappers biked, played golf and tennis, and strove to emulate the flat-chested and hipless physiques of the adolescent boys whose freedom and lack of domestic responsibilities they envied.
Colleen Moore was a success in not only the movie industry, but in the eyes of the public and the millions of women she influenced.
Although they may not dress the same as their peers 100 years ago, the Smithsonian September 2017 article further explains that the young women of today carry the flapper spirit within them, striving for independence, success, individuality, and fame. As F. Scott Fitzgerald once put it, "I was the spark that lit up flaming youth. Colleen Moore was the torch." In these ways, Colleen Moore is a triumph for Illinois and, moreover, for American history.